Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome once again to Satsang with G, which is me. But as always, I like to remind you that it's really Satsang with you. This is an opportunity for you to take to dedicate a piece of time to truly knowing who you are, to consciously endeavoring to go beyond all of the thoughts that we think we are and to partake directly of what you actually are, which, as I point out over and over again, is a totally subjective experience. Nobody can measure or evaluate your experience, how you experience yourself and life, the world around you, and everything. Nobody can penetrate that. I don't care how well the brain gets examined. Right? Ultimately, if you want to know what your experience is as opposed to what's happening in the brain, I have to ask you. Right? I can look at all the charts, the MRIs, and the biofeedback, and all the everything, and I can see stuff that's happening. But there's no way with that I can know what it is you are experiencing. It is completely unique to you, which means nobody really has the authority and therefore the right to comment on the quality of your experience. Nobody has any authority in that internal space of yours except you. Now, this is an amazing thing to ponder, right? Because our entire life, from the time we are children, we are not taught autonomy. We're not taught to think for ourselves. We're taught to think like our tribe thought, right? And the extensions of the tribe. And of course, the tribe is a representation. The tribe, when I say the word tribe, I'm talking about starting with your immediate family and expanding to your extended family and the like, and then into the community at large, the culture as a whole. And the tribal instinct, the very primitive instinct in all of us as human beings, is to be bonded to our parents, to our family, to our tribe. Being part of a group is kind of inherent in the human system, and therefore there's a very natural tendency to want to conform to the group. It means safety. It means survival, right? But simultaneously, in every single one of us, there is also the drive for authenticity, the drive for freedom, the drive for individuality in my own self-expression. And these two are in a dance, you might say, a creative tension, right? And for the most part, the tribe will always argue for the tribe in denial of your individuality. So we don't have schools that teach you how to think. We have schools that teach you what to think. The system of education in the West is based on the education of 15th century monks. I mean, talk about regimented, right? It was not about free thinking or questioning, right? It was about rote and the canon, and this is the way it is, and this is the way it's going to be. And that continues to this day. And so we have to take upon ourselves recognizing this. We realize that I've been conditioned to defer to others. I have been trained very well to always listen to others, that there are those who are in authority, and they're the ones that need to be listened to. my own instincts, my own intuition, right? Unless it stands up, right, to the test of the, the leading criteria as to what is true and what isn't, and is approved by the authorities, right? My own internal intuition or instinct, my own internal mysticism, you might say, is not a factor. Now, this is institutionalized in culture, especially in most religions, Western religions to a high degree, but all religions to some degree. There's this sense that there's an ultimate authority, and it's not you. Right? And there's the book, right? The official books, and then there's the official people who interpret the books. And it's only been the last couple hundred years we've all been able to read and write, right? So taking this internal authority, acknowledging your own feelings, your own interests, your own desires, that which makes you uniquely you, is a part of this journey. I don't want anybody to interpret that a non-dual inquiry, the discovering that you're not the person, that you aren't who you think you are, is going to make you conform to some different model. Like, now I'm going to be spiritual. Oh, I can't get angry. I can't judge anybody, right? Just a new set of rules that you're supposed to govern. It's about freedom. Complete and total freedom of self-expression. So you don't have to, if you're a guru, you don't have to act like a guru. You don't have to wear orange robes. If you're a lawyer, you don't have to act like a lawyer, right? If you're a truck driver, you don't have to dress and act like a truck driver. I once read, 40 years ago, a story about a man. This is when Detroit still actually had car industry. I think it was like the 70s. So cars were still being built. It was still a great city where people could make a living, right? Before greed took over totally. And there was one guy, this fellow, who worked on the assembly line, and he just got tired of being dirty and disheveled all the time. Always, overalls and that. He really got tired of that. So he actually started dressing up. He was actually going to working on an assembly line in a white suit. It was remarkable. And it put him into such a different state of consciousness that he didn't get dirty. He was extremely attentive to what he did, and he didn't get dirty. It never got soiled. He commented about it. It was very strange, but he was really focused on it. He took the opportunity to simply not become an assembly line worker, as culture had defined that certain level, lower middle class, this kind of attitude, that sort of thing. And instead, he elevated himself simply by choice. That was just such a beautiful example that, we just kind of fall into it. When I was a musician, I acted like a musician, right? I liked, it wasn't just a love of music and playing music. I wanted to be that, right? Sense of identity, especially because I got into it so young, it became my whole sense of identity. This is about freedom, genuine freedom for the authentic expression of who you are. This is what Satsang is, the truth of your being. That's what Sat is your being or your truth. And it doesn't mean that whatever I believe to be true is true. It isn't cultural or moral relativism. It's not like that at all. It is simply about who are you, without any reference to anything else, without deferring to any other authority, even me or any other teacher. Who are you? Only you can answer that question. Right? There's plenty of us out here happy to guide you as best we can, point you in the direction. There's the cave, go into that cave. But you've got to walk in there and see what you find. So anyway, welcome to Satsang. Another wonderful Sunday I get to spend with all my friends. So let me start going through the questions. I do encourage you to ask questions early rather than late, because they do tend to compound. And while I try to get to them all as time goes on, I tend to, I tend to have to kind of speed things up if I'm going to get to them all. I'd much rather take my time on each question and give it to some depth, and also to make clear that while I may not get to your question will be answered, right? So, don't kind of zone out thinking, oh, that question, that's not relevant to me, and then go check email or something like that. Because all the questions are your questions. Any one of the questions that comes up, anybody can ask it. There's a part of us that's interested in it. And when the answer comes, it isn't necessarily directly in response to the question. It's not a one-to-one kind of thing. It's whatever comes to this mouth to say, right? And it may start around someone's question. It may go very, very far away from it. It may not even start there. It might take a completely different tact. So be assured that by the time we're done, even if you have to leave early, your whatever you need to get from satsang, you will get, because it's your satsang. It is your experience. It is all for you. It's all about you. I'm just kind of like a figure piece up here. I'm not even all that important to the process. I'm more of a spokesmodel. Okay, let's see. All righty. Let me need to shrink this down a little bit so I can see the questions better. There we are. Okay, good. All right, Faith. Hello, my chic and spiritual tribe. Hello, Faith. What is destiny? Is it same in religion? Pray for my heart, dear Babaji. Destiny. I get destiny. Well, destiny is this idea that everything in your life has really been pre-planned. It's unfolding according to a plan, and there's nothing you can do about it. When there is no consciousness, no awakening has occurred, no sense, no insight into myself as opposed to my conditioning. None of that's taken place. I am really quite literally acting out my conditioning. Right? Now, conditioning has patterns that are easily predictable, and will follow that pattern unless it's interrupted by consciousness or awakening. Once you awaken, right, you now are in a position where you are no longer subject simply to the mindless grinding of the pre-programmed responses and conditioning. Now, there's a momentum to it still that is going to be sucking you along for a while, and it will feel uncomfortable because you don't want to go there, but it seems overpowering. You end up going there. But the very act that you're seeing it, and you continue to feed that seeing, that deep knowing, an ever widening distance between you and what would have been your destiny opens up. And in that space, because you're no longer unconsciously and therefore actively engaged in that momentum and not feeding it fresh energy anymore, it will eventually begin to dissipate. And the whole nervous system, which is just nothing but adaptation to environment, will shift and begin to more and more embody the awakened you that is sitting now at the seat at the heart, at the home, at the center of you. That light at the center will reach out and start to adjust all of the different stuff that's going on in the energy system. So is it the same in religion? Well, religions that do not understand, that do not acknowledge awakening, which is the Western religions. There's no such thing as awakening or enlightenment in those. There's only the acceptance of the doctrine, the belief in the vicarious sacrifice of Christ, if it's Christianity, the belief of obedience to the law, if you're in Judaism, and in Islam. So about I'm not as familiar with Islam, obviously, as faith you are, but yes, there's certain things that those are the standards. It's not about awakening. It's not about enlightenment. It is about an adherence to whatever that particular religious view states is the way you're supposed to be. There's many sects of Buddhism that it's really behavioral. It's about being compassionate and loving and not hurting anything, and being a vegetarian and that sort of thing. And the nature of those religions are very much oriented around your behavior and conforming to certain ways. It's just another form of the same kind of conformity where your individuality is not acknowledged. And so the idea of a destiny then becomes a reward in an afterlife. If you've done everything right, then you're going to get this. You're going to go to heaven of some sort. You're going to be born into a higher caste. You're going to have an auspicious birth in the next life. You're going to be punished in some way. It's going to be a worse birth, right? Your next life, you're going to come back as a skunk, or you're going to end up in hell. But all of those are based on the notion, on a complete ignorance to the possibility of enlightenment. Because enlightenment transcends that. It goes to another space. It's beyond all of the rules and engagements of this world, and brings you to a place where you see yourself not as just this figure, right, in this drama over which you have no power, but the awakened being that believed itself to be subject to all of that, but now recognizes that they're not. And that's the end of destiny. It's the end of the karma. It's the end of predestination, which is a severer form. It's the end of Calvinism. It's the end of all the rules, the rights, and the wrongs. It is the pure grace of your own truth. So I hope that answers it for you, Faith, my dear friend. I need to shrink this window down a little bit. It's getting a little bit clumsy to manage. Okay. Rosario, hello, Rosario. How are you? So good to see you. There's Roberto, my two friends in Spain. But Roberto's not in Spain right now. He's at the southernmost point of Europe in Tarifa. You can see Tangier from here. Wonderful. Great vacation. Robbie in Romania. Hello to you, Robbie. Roberto, GP. GP Tully Moji, all enlightened masters awaken after a terrible experience. Muji's wasn't a terrible experience. Right? And neither was mine. That night on the bridge I talk about after having a dreadful childhood, that was just the beginning. Right? The process took very long to complete. Tully, yes. He suffered his entire life up to the time he was 29. It was just incessant suffering. Ramana Maharshi didn't, right? One instance, right? It wasn't he was suffering. He was just a normal kid. He was fine. But one instance where he suddenly thought he was dying and there was nobody around. And so he just kind of laid there and surrendered to it. Another fellow I know, Steve Jourdain, absolutely no suffering whatsoever, had a great life, great parents. And then one day just got completely absorbed in Descartes' cogito. I think, therefore I am, and just kept penetrating to the point where it finally just broke open. I mean, that's how he did it. Papaji, no tough experience. Buddha put himself through that, but the actual enlightenment experience itself wasn't. It wasn't that. Whatever it takes to get us to the place where we're willing to deeply question, whether that be because of our own intellectual curiosity, because it just engages us so, or because we've just so suffered so interminably that I'll do anything to get out of this. It doesn't matter how you get to that door, and there's no one way you get there, right? Some involve suffering, some don't, right? So what if one hasn't had such an experience? No problem. There's no rules here. There's no mandate. Remember, enlightenment is not the result of some process. It's not the consequence of some experience. If it was, there'd be a nice little checklist we could go down, do this, 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 and this, and voila, you'll be enlightened. It is not the fruit of anything. It has no cause, right? The realization has no cause, right? We try to imagine one, right? I'm sure you've had the experience, everyone has had the experience of having some incredible insight. You know, maybe it's a seminar or retreat or something like that, or maybe you just run across something. If you really look at it, that insight didn't really have a cause. It was a very spontaneous thing, virgin birth. It seemed to come out of nowhere. We then put together in our minds, we go, okay, well, I had this insight because I was here and I was thinking about this. And we'll even then try to recreate those circumstances, thinking that it led to the insight. And then we do it and there's no insight. There's no awakening, right? There's no dancing girls and bright lights, right? So it has nothing to do with that, right? Where enlightenment cannot be a goal. The moment it becomes a goal, your mind's involved. We're doing all sorts of plots. You cannot make it happen. Don't even try. So what do you do instead? So why are we doing all of this sort of stuff? Because it's grabbed your attention. And it may have grabbed your attention because it's utterly fascinating, and you see some gold there that you didn't realize. It looks more interesting than anything else, and you're just drawn to it. And or you're just suffering so bad and nothing's working to alleviate it. And so you start questioning things you wouldn't have otherwise questioned. If the nature of the ego and the sense of a separate self, it has to be questioned. If it's not, nothing happens. If it is, that is the awakening. That is the steps that you're going through. And it's not really even a choice. That's not even a choice on our part. It happens very, very naturally. And sometimes life is so benevolent that it'll make us suffer interminably to break us of our love of and addiction to the egoic mind. And that is the purpose of suffering, the only purpose, right? And once it has served that purpose and you're on the path, it is no longer needed, right? So it's not there for its own. You know, Buddha put himself through enormous suffering, and then realized it had absolutely no effect whatsoever. It was useless, and he threw it away. Then because he was just his own determination to find the ultimate answer to suffering, he simply sat down under that Bodhi tree and devoted himself to it, realizing that there was nothing he could do in any of his behaviors that were going to bring that about, but he knew intuitively there was an answer. And he sat there until he got it. And in fact, in one of the stories of his enlightenment, he was so stunned, so blown away by the answer that he sat there for 7 days. Just, I suppose, a bit like, Eckhart Tolle sitting on the park bench for 2 years, right? It's just kind of like, so there's, Yeah, there's no prescribed. No, people will do that. You know, as Siddhartha did before he became Buddha. He said, "Okay, well, that's the way it happens. It comes out of a lot of suffering. I'm just going to make myself suffer so badly that I'll eventually find the way out of it." Right, and so we see. Okay, well, this person, I could tell he suffered. Okay, I guess I got to suffer, right? And then I guess after the suffering and you're awake, now you got to go sit on a park bench for 2 years. No, no. Your story is absolutely unique. Your awakening story is in progress. You know, at some point, you'll recognize that what you're experiencing right now and what you have over the whole time I've known you and before has been the awakening story. But it hasn't got its context yet. You know, like a good movie, so much doesn't make sense until the climax. The climax, all of a sudden, that's why this is, and that's why this was, and that's why this was. Boom. It's the punchline, right? It's the everything else is the setup. When the punchline happens, I get it. Now I get it. And you can't compare your life to anybody else's. There are no comparisons. Sometimes the awakening happens so gradually and so imperceptibly that people don't even know it's happened. Matter of fact, everybody here has experienced the awakening, is in it, right? But doesn't recognize it because you keep comparing it to, a living Buddha like Muji. Right? Don't compare it. You can't. Right? The awakening is in progress everywhere. So good. Thank you, Roberto. My screen is doing really funny things to me today, hopping all over the place. Yeah, not just YouTube, but my setup here, because I've got a large screen attached to my laptop over here, so I can actually see all the questions well. Otherwise, I'd be squinting. I can't see that far away. Hello, Penny. Good to see you. Roberto continues. Once you're aware you've been run by your beliefs, minds, and fears your entire life, you realize those feelings of not being worthiness, lack, not being safe. What the heck do you do with all of that? Exactly what you're doing, right? The awareness of them means they are beliefs, right, that have been so believed, so well rehearsed, that they have become automatic behaviors, right? I mean, when you're sitting down for dinner, you don't doubt for one moment when you reach for the knife and the fork, you're going to get it. You're going to be able to cut your food and it's going to find its way to your mouth, right? There was a time when you couldn't do that, right? You give the kid the food and it's like, right? They can't find, right? You learned how to do that, right? It got trained. You did it over and over and over again. And eventually the whole body, the muscle memory and all of that kicked in. And now you don't even think about it. It just happens, right? You don't even think, I'm going to reach for the fork now. You just take it out, scarf down your food, right? The chewing, all of it, right? All of these things, at first, we couldn't do. Tying your shoe. And there's the obvious ones like riding a bike or learning math or learning to play an instrument. Anything that required repetition long enough for it to become automatic, right? Well, our beliefs are exactly the same. They don't work any differently. We are trained to fear. We are trained to have a reaction to certain circumstances by fear. This happens, I should be afraid. And so the fear is going to be there, even if there really isn't anything to be afraid of. But this is the power, right? The power of discernment. When you realize it's a belief, you are now empowered to be able to look carefully at why the reaction would still be there. because the belief is not a head belief. It is an energetic belief. Right? It's the way the nervous system has been trained. And so now becomes the process of retraining, which means I feel something happen. I feel the fear. I see how my body wants to react. I want to run away from it. I see all the thoughts that have now been triggered by this event. This is terrible. What's going to happen? Then all of those are part of the conditioning. And now I have to sit in this place where I don't run away. I don't fight with the thoughts, but I become more and more equanimous, stepping back, watching, feeling. And just like I've taught you to do, go into the body to feel the energy in the body, right, without engaging in the mind. The mind story will be there. It's going to try to comment about what you're feeling. And little by little, you break that connection. You realize that the feeling in your body is one thing. The thoughts about it are completely different. They're arbitrary and programmed. And they're not telling the truth. They don't know the truth. It's a story been created based on a particular set of reactions or feelings in the nervous system. So if you're with those feelings, if you just stay with those feelings, without any mental commenting about it or judging an agenda, pure feeling, don't even name them. And you will find that even the most difficult feeling will get, in a very weird way, almost pleasurable. It becomes pure feeling, pure experience. And as that happens, your feelings will no longer be an enemy. They'll no longer be the problem, because they're not. The fact that feeling shows, or a fear shows up in your body, is not the problem. It's what the mind says about it and then tries to get you to do something about it, run away from it, sedate it, reframe it, anything, rather than feel it. Right? So if you just feel it, what happens? It's here. All right, I'm going to feel it. Watch what happens. It will transform before your very eyes, because there isn't anything inherently problematic about the feeling. All the problems are here. This is the great discovery. One of many, actually. Beautiful. Thank you, Roberto, as always. All right, let's see. Diane, hello. Hello in England. Happy to be here. So glad you're there. Justine. Hello, Justine. Hi, everyone. Is everything that happens just an evolution of consciousness? Everything, well, let's rather than me give you some kind of theoretical answer, I want you to look for yourself, your own experience, right? And in your own experience, things are happening, right? Things are going on, right? And you can watch these things going on. Now, is anything going on that isn't in your consciousness, right? Just from your perspective, right? Is, from your personal experience, right? If it's not happening in your consciousness, it's like it's not happening at all, right? There's absolutely nothing there. Geez, my whole system just went blank here. It's like there's nothing there at all, right? It doesn't even exist. I mean, we know about China, right? I don't think I have anybody here from China today, right? We know about China, right? But really, for all intents and purposes, does it exist for you? Does it have any impact on your life? It's just a thought that you have, right? Yeah, somewhere out there, there's 1.5 billion people, but hey, what relevance is that? So just be concerned about what is directly in your experience. What are you experiencing, and where is it? Right? So the sum totality of your experience is within your consciousness, right? Now, I want you to just notice something that's extremely important. There's our consciousness, and then there's the content of consciousness. So when you say evolution of consciousness, which what most people mean when they're thinking like that, when they're asking a question like that, is that they've noticed that there's an evolution has taken place, right? And obviously there has. You know, you're probably more spiritual, more committed, more learned, grower. You're more competent than you were before, right? And you know, starting as a child, everybody's more competent, right? Some you may have acquired different kinds of skills. So to say nothing evolved, of course, is obviously not true. It has evolved, progressed, right? The way I teach this has evolved. It's different than it was. You look at my videos 5 years ago, and the basic thing I'm teaching hasn't changed, but the way I the way I teach it has, right? So it's obvious that things have evolved. Now the question is, what's evolved? Is it consciousness that's evolved, or the content of consciousness that's evolved? This is extremely important, right? Because if we think it's consciousness that's evolved, then consciousness becomes a thing that is fluctuating, right? So then I would have to ask, right? That which is fluctuating, right? Is there not something aware of that fluctuation? Everything you experience in your life, is there not something that is aware of that experience? Could there be an experience without that awareness? Is that awareness, that consciousness, evolving? Is it changing? Is it fluctuating in the slightest? This is again, as I said right at the beginning of this satsang, it's about your looking at your own direct experience. Now notice, I didn't deny there were evolution and growth and change, and we even want evolution and growth and change. That's what, you know, personal development is all about. Every new skill we learn, every new thing we try to do, whether, you know, be for our careers or for fun, right? It's actually fun to acquire new skills and to grow, right? So it's not a denial of that, right? But it's a looking, it's a deep looking to see, okay, there is this going on here, but is that which is aware of the evolution and growing, is that shifting and changing? And if it was, how could it even identify something evolving and growing? It seems almost self-evident that there'd have to be something stable, some ground upon which that would be solid, that wasn't changing, in order to measure the fluctuations in what is seen. It's almost like you have to have a placebo group, right? There has to be a control group, right? That nothing has changed, against which can be measured the result, the flat background. This is what is known as emptiness or consciousness. Consciousness does not fluctuate. Look at your life. When I talk about consciousness, I'm not talking about the content. I'm talking about the actual experience of you, of knowingness. That which is having the experiencing, registering that things have changed. Has that changed? And is that not you? That's the real you. And so when you ask that question, everything that happens in evolution of consciousness, I think more accurately, everything that happens is an evolution in consciousness. But consciousness, being the infinite ocean in which it happens, is not evolving. Doesn't need to evolve. You don't need to evolve infinity. everything would evolve within it. Right? Hopefully that answers it for you, Justine. Robert Goldberg, hello, sir. Down there in Henderson, good Sunday, GP. How would you handle rejection that I sense when I walk into a room? First off, thank God you're aware of it. I'm not really very welcome here. And then leave, right? If you have to be there for some reason, it's, business or, someplace you have to be, then you just notice that feeling, right? Don't fight it. Don't run away from it. Don't make a big deal out of it, right? Just be with the feelings. Don't let the mind make a story about it. Oh, they shouldn't be doing that. Why are they accepted? Who's the call? You just, there's the feeling there. Recognizing that it's probably true, right? There's a genuine feel. I felt that going places, and I felt that I wasn't welcome, right? I did what I didn't to do, paid my respect, whatever I had to do, and then hightailed it, right? There's no need to be someplace where you're not truly welcome, right? It's not your personal problem. The moment you think, oh, why are they rejecting me? What's wrong with me? Shouldn't I be able to? You've now personalized something and made it into a personal problem, and it isn't. It isn't a personal problem. Right? Now, this presupposes that you've been doing your own inner work on any self-rejection that might be there. But even so, don't turn it into a circumstance like that into, oh, I guess I got to work on self-rejection while I'm here. No, right? The internal work is kind of like practicing the piano. When you're performing, you're performing. You're out in the world, you're experiencing the world, you respond intelligently and naturally to what happens in the world. And the inner work is over here. There you work on that, my own sense of rejection. And I would get out of the place and then I'd take a look at it, right? Was there something in me, right, that I'm rejecting? Right? And then just use it as an inquiry. But don't make a huge deal out of it. Do not turn it into this big thing. Oh, I've got to fix this. I got to solve this problem. Don't do that. You don't have to, right? Just really let yourself be spontaneously present in the moment when you're out in life. It's, oh, I don't really feel very welcome in this room. And just be there you may find some places it may dissipate. You may find some little pockets where there is a sense of welcoming. And also, if you don't need to be there, you just kind of go, okay, I'm out. That's quite okay too. All of that's allowed. So hopefully that answers it for you. You're welcome here. We love having you. I think everyone will agree to that. Martin, hello. How can one forgive oneself and others? Oh, forgiveness is such a huge subject. And most of you know I have talked for hours on that. Forgiveness is not what people think it is. Right? You think, okay, I've got to forgive them for what they did. Right? And at the same time, there's a part of us that wants to hold them responsible for what they did. And somehow, if I just forgive their actions, it's like I've condoned it, right? And of course, just the very act of forgiving means I have been wronged, right? They shouldn't have acted that way towards me and did, right? And so I'm in a position where I have the right to pardon them, forgive them their sin against me, okay? Which is kind of the way that's the way it's normally looked at. And so people try to drive you to forgiving. They'll even say things like, well, if you don't forgive, you're just gonna be laying it on yourself. It's punishing yourself for what somebody else does. That's what the nice little phrases like that. There's a little bit of truth in that. But I'm here to take it to another level, to give it a deeper understanding, right? To understand why I react, why they did what they did, right? And to not impute blame, but to also recognize consequences, right? I blamed my mother for a long time for what had happened. Why couldn't she have been better? Till I realized she couldn't be better. She couldn't. It was simply not in her capacity to be anything other than she was, because there was no consciousness there. There was nothing there to actually question her own actions and decisions and stuff she was doing. Right? It requires consciousness. So if there's no consciousness there, she's just simply acting out her programmed responses. Is she responsible? Or is she simply acting out the way she's acting out? Right? I mean, is the shark morally culpable because it eats the seal? It's what it is. It's what it does. It has no capacity to say, there's a lot of seals that are suffering because of me. I just come into the room and they're all upset. They're all nervous, right? I really want to be a vegan. There's no consciousness in a shark to be able to do it. It's simply obeying its nature. Now, this is the same thing in human beings. We're simply obeying our nature, the way we were programmed to be, and that's just the essence of human nature, right? And then the adaptations human nature makes to be able to survive in the particular environment in which you grew up, right? I mean, I have some insight into the environment in which my mother grew up, because I knew her. I knew some of my aunts. A little bit of my grandmother. She was, I don't know, I wasn't that old when she died, but some of her sisters and the like, some of the other crazy people in the family. My sister ran across some photographs of her in very suggestive positions as like 10 years old. One of her aunts was married to a guy who was a photographer, and it appears as though there was some sexual abuse involved, which wasn't uncommon. She was born in 1911, right? So that period of time, at the tail end of the Victorian period, that shit was rampant, actually. And so when you put that all together, it creates, without consciousness, it creates energy inside that's going to drive somebody crazy. So was she responsible? Not really, right? Now, does that change the impact that it had on me? As somebody who had to deal with that with no idea what was going on, no idea who was going to show up today. Right? Does it change the impact that it had on me? No, it doesn't. Obviously not. The impact it has, it would be the same, conscious or unconscious. But my understanding now is it was the shark eating the seal. She had no choice. And my experience is everyone who becomes conscious chooses the right path. Because when you become conscious, you see the consequences of your action. You see the pain it causes to yourself and to others, and you let go of it. You're convicted by your own conscience. This is the true meaning of forgiveness. To understand that Father, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. And in fact, that word forgiveness, as Christ used it, does not mean pardon, right? As it's been commonly used now and throughout all of Christianity. It was pardon. You're guilty, you deserve to be punished. It was a conscious choice on your part to do it, and you should be severely punished, but I'm going to let you off the hook, right? I'm going to commute the sentence. You deserve it. You're guilty, but I'm going to commute the sentence. See how nice I am. See what a good God I am. Right? That's not the definition in the Greek that I've seen of Christ's use of that word. It was the context of forgiveness, as in as in vindication. It means to be found not guilty. So in a sense, I find my mother not guilty. Why? She didn't know what she was doing. Father, find them not guilty, because they don't know what they're doing. Now, does that change the effect it has? No, of course not. Right? And obviously that's I got that. I have to deal with that. I have to make use of that. I have to transcend that. Right? That's the hand you're dealt. But it's not, there's nobody to blame for it. Right? Why was she like that? Because of what she went through. Right? And all the people that inflicted that on her, why did they do that to her? Because of what happened to them. And what happened to them? What happened? Go as far back as you want. You're gonna find somebody evil demon, right? Right? Who started this whole thing in motion, right? Some devil sitting somewhere. No, there's nobody to blame. Right? When you see there's nobody to blame, you grasp the original innocence, right? Because there is something there in every single individual that is not conditioned. It's buried completely out of sight in many, many, many people. But it's there. And that is what you hook into. And that is the deeper meaning of forgiveness. When you see how the whole system actually works and your true nature in its original innocence, forgive everyone. That is the total forgiveness. That is grace. Right? And of course, you apply that to yourself as well. It doesn't matter what you've done in your life. It was the same thing. You didn't know any better. You couldn't see. And I'm sure there's things you did that you would never think of doing now. Why? Because consciousness has awakened. You've awakened to the point where you see it, those kinds of consequences, and you go, oh my God, I can't do that. Wow. This is true transformation. This is true repentance, right? Not you're forced, you're afraid of the consequences. That's not morality. The fear of the consequences or lack of opportunity, that's not morality. It's when you see clearly the impact of your actions from a place of a deeper love and compassion. You go, my God, I don't want to be like that. And then that behavior simply falls away. That's the true and ultimate forgiveness. So thank you. Oh, where's my cursor? There it is. Thank you, Martin. David and Elaine, IGP and everyone. Love and greetings, Southeast England. Good to see you guys as always. Suzanne, hi there. How does an enlightened person see the world? Just like before realization happened, only without distractions, free from any bias, or different as normal people? Yeah, Suzanne, you're really abnormal. You know that? Let me ask you a question. When you look up at the sky in the day, it appears as though the sun is moving, the earth is stationary, right? Now, there was a time when we believed that the earth was stationary and the sun was going around it, right? Now, has anything changed in what we perceive or see when we realize that the earth is moving and the sun is stationary? And if the earth was in fact stationary and the sun was moving, would it look any different? It'd be exactly the same experience, right? Nothing's changed except what? The understanding of it, the perception of it. You realize where it's coming from. To the awakened person, they don't see a world as an independent thing. They see the world as modulations of consciousness. And that I am that consciousness. I am at the center of that consciousness. And not me personally, because that's all part of what appears in consciousness, but the universal consciousness that is speaking right now. And the universal consciousness that is hearing these words. Right? So I want to make it very, 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 very simple, not intellectual at all. Just how many times have you had the experience of of experiencing something, and then all of a sudden you see it afresh. You see it through new eyes. It's like, oh, wow, look at that. Or maybe, you know, some kind of experience where suddenly something that seemed very ordinary and mundane, you go, oh, wow, I never, wow. And some completely different experience of exactly the same thing has happened. Right? The world looks absolutely no different. The experience has no difference whatsoever, but the understanding of the experience is completely different. Right? The world does not exist as an entity separate from myself. There is no body, there is no mind, there is no world, there is no universe. There is only consciousness. But consciousness made manifest is what we call the world, the universe. As it says in the Ribugita, it is all the Brahman self. There is no world, there is only the self. Or as it says in the Upanishads, all creation is myself, for it is all poured forth from me. Without consciousness, there is no creation. There's nothing exists. Take away consciousness right now from you. Would anything exist? You wouldn't even have the thought that something could exist. Right? So consciousness is your very existence. It's the existence of everything. Nothing can exist without, but there is a belief that consciousness is confined to a body, experiencing a world external to itself. This is the belief. And this is the belief we cut through. That's the wall of the mind that has to be torn down. It actually isn't that. And recognizing it for what it is does not change the experience. If it did, then there'd be something basically wrong with the world. It is simply the shift in perception. Just like knowing that the sun is stationary and we are moving does not change what I actually experience in terms of the what appears to my senses. I just don't. The place from which it is viewed now is not that any longer. Is that clear? Does that make it really simple? Trying to make everything very simple today. Everything very simple and succinct and to the point. And I keep having my computer here, just the screen blanks out for absolutely no reason. Annette Rockstar. Hi, G. Hi, Annette. Does such thing as destiny exist? Okay, you probably heard me talking about what destiny was with Faith. So I won't repeat that. And if so, does everyone have purpose in life? How does one get to know one's own purpose? I'll take that up because that's a little different, right? Destiny and purpose, right? Destiny is kind of, Nisargadatta put it perfectly. He said, destiny is what happens. Simple, right? We want to think that there's some grand scheme, right? You know, there's some kind of super being sitting up there pulling the strings, and this is going to happen, then this, and this, and this, and this, and then boom, we're going to have dinosaurs, and then this, and this, and then boom, man is going to appear, and this, and then agriculture, and we're going to have, you know, a couple of world wars, and it's like, no. Destiny is what happens. It's just what happens. It's the natural confluence of events, right? It's just kind of, you push the ball down, you start rolling the big rock down the hill, and it's just going to keep going for a while, doing what it does until it runs out of steam. You could consider that destiny. There's nothing controlling that, right? And we put purpose in the same kind of thing. Like there's this existential purpose that I am supposed to fulfill, right? My life purpose, and if I don't do it, my God, what's going to happen? Well, look, if it was your purpose, you could not help but fulfill it, which means that your purpose is being fulfilled right this second, always has been. You couldn't not fulfill it, so you can let go of all the anxiety of somehow, do I need to know what it is? You don't even need to know what it is, right? But if I was to give you an overarching purpose, I would say be happy. That's it. To be happy. How do you be happy? You know yourself as you actually are, and you have the freedom to express yourself as you actually are. Your purpose is to express yourself. Right? That's it. Because you're unique. There's nothing like you. There never has been and never will be after. You are the gift. So to be expressing yourself as you are in the most authentic way is your gift to the world. It's the thing that you and you alone can give. Right? And we all need it. We need you. Not you as a bunch of skills or education or stuff you can do, but your unique signature. And every individual form has that, in the sense that its purpose isn't to like fulfill some overarching plan. Its purpose is to simply be itself. Right? And this is the beautiful oneness between the manifestation and the essence. The essence is purposeless. It just is. There's not a purpose to infinity. It doesn't serve any purpose other than itself. Right? That which happens within the infinite consciousness, everything individually, its purpose is to give manifestation to the infinite consciousness. To what is the purpose of a piece of music by a great composer, Beethoven or Stravinsky or Ravel or something like that? Right? That piece of music gives expression to the composer and the whole of music, doesn't it? Every composer, their unique expression, every piece of music gives expression to the composer. Simultaneously, all of that together gives expression to music as a whole. So everything you do expresses you. That's your purpose in your unique way. And in so doing, it reveals the infinite nuance and aspects of consciousness, all the different ways in which consciousness can manifest itself. And so there's the individual expression, which is simultaneously the universal expression. You are both an individual manifestation and the unique wholeness and the infinite wholeness at the same time. Both are present constantly. They are not two. So while right now I'm talking, what I'm expressing is the absolute infinite, illimitable pure truth. But it's these words, this body, this guy, this chair, this in that particular unique way, this particular use of language, these particular gestures, right? This particular shirt, right? But what's coming across in that unique costume, right, is that which is beyond all the costumes, right? Is beyond what is it transcends all of the forms, but without the forms, it is just simply unknowable. So believe it or not, your mind just keeps telling you, what's my purpose? If I find it, then I can live it. You are doing it. What you'll discover is that you're already doing it. You've been doing it. You can't help but doing it. Right? You can't interfere with the divine plan. You can't interfere with the whole purpose. This particular form came about. The mind thinks it can, right? Because the way we've been trained, when we're looking for a purpose, we're looking for a career. We're looking for something we're going to function in. We're going to look for a contribution that we can make. Everything within terms of the external world. There's nothing to do with the external world. Right? It'll take care of itself. The world will have no problems when everybody is simply being themselves, really being themselves, not serving some ideology, not serving some economic interest, not serving some religion, not serving some external purpose, but to simply be themselves. Then God, the ultimate, shines through every single individual, and you'll see the face of the individual and the face of God, and they will be absolutely indistinguishable. Does that answer it for you, my resident rock star? Beautiful, beautiful. Hopefully. Hey Jay, good to see you. Great posts on Facebook, and I think I owe you a response. Yes, I think what's going to be that Lisa and I are. She's going to help me, basically be my producer to start doing a regular live stream to the Facebook group. So those of you who are not in the Facebook group, the private Facebook group that I have, just go to Facebook/GP Walsh Spiritual Teacher. I know it's long, and join up. So that way you'll get in on it, right? And if you really want to help out, you can go to gpwalsh.com/patron, Patron, and for $15 a month, become a subscriber, help me pay for all this stuff. And I will be giving, there's a whole bunch of stuff there for your benefit. Videos, excerpts from Satsang, EFT, meditations, my radio show, discount coupon for other courses and programs and the like. But the most important thing is it helps me keep this going and keep it free. Because believe me, I'm not getting rich doing this. Okay. At least not rich in the world's terms. Okay. Well, I'm glad everything is working on your side because I'm having all sorts of problems here. My screen just goes black. I know you guys are still seeing the feed. It's not affecting that, which I'm really happy about. Hello, Mary. Good to see you. Oops. Sorry, Ravi. Juliana. Hi, Satsang people. Hi, GP. Do you think that Darwin's theory of evolution is true? Yes and no. Sometimes during satsang, I don't know exactly how deep to go into these things. Evolution is obviously true. You can see it in your own life in the sense that everything seems to progress. It's also easy to understand that everything adapts to its environment, right? I mean, it is that evolutionary power of adaptation that makes a species survive. And in humans, it has become so refined that it makes an individual survive. You hear me talk about that all the time. Childhood trauma is the adaptation of the nervous system to an environment that's hostile to it, right? We suffer things at the hands of our caregivers, which we shouldn't have to. And the nervous system adapts to that in order to survive. And it does that by disowning important parts of itself because it's dangerous to show to the tribe, and creating a false version of you to present to the tribe in order to get your basic needs met. That's the trauma. It's a disconnect from your soul. You're no longer free to be your authentic self. To be your authentic self is danger. And all the rest of this came from that. Right? That's the origin of the sense of being a separate self. Not exactly, but close enough. Right? This is the adaptive capacity, which is in humans is absolutely amazing. Right? The problem is that adaptation we made as children, right, which was successful in that environment, is a total failure later on in the other environments we have to deal with, right? But the energy gets stuck there. It's really easy to see how things have evolved, but in the model, in the consciousness only model, which I am an adherent to and an evangelist for, is that the view of everything is from the point of view of consciousness. Something like Darwin applies to the content of consciousness, not to consciousness. And I can only point you to your own experience. And have you noticed that you can remember any time in your life, well, what was happening in your life? If you really focus your attention on the experiencing itself, not what was experienced, you'll notice that there was something there that has not changed. Everybody has that experience. It's like, even though, you know, I'm way older than I was before, I don't feel something in me. Yeah, I notice, you know, some things in the body that don't feel quite the way they used to. You know, my mind doesn't work as fast as it used to. I look in the mirror and I don't see that youthful shine I used to see. And yet at the same time, I'm very aware of something that absolutely is the same. It has not changed in the slightest. Now, some will call that imaginary. No, it's changed and all that. But again, I can only go my own direct experience, and I have to trust that to a certain extent, and not be deferring because somebody else says, "Nah, it's not really. It's an illusion." Right? Now, my answer would be, "Okay, what's having the illusion? There's something there that isn't an illusion, right?" And so Darwin's theory was a huge step forward, getting us out of the authority of ignorance, really, right? And the authority of the Christian church has always been about empire. It's always been about the powerful staying in power. It has never been about freedom. It's never been about you. It's all about keeping you disempowered, and it still is. That's the fundamentalism, which is even more virulent than the Catholic Church, which was horrible in and of itself. That's the whole emphasis of it. Don't think, don't question, you must believe. I mean, it's like, don't use the very gifts that was supposedly put into us in the beginning, which is what God wanted. Don't use them, though. Anyway, all of the scientific method saved us from pure superstition, but it put us into another place. Right? It disowned completely subjective or mystical experience. My personal experience was no longer valid unless it could be applied, validated through the scientific method with reproducible results and all of that. My personal experience, my direct experience, was not valid. And we were all taught now the opposite of that. First, it was the church that taught my experience isn't valid because my nature is sinful. So it's, you must believe the scripture. Now the authority says it's not valid because it's not objectively verifiable. We're kind of in the same boat, right? So I look at it, I see, obviously over time, species have changed. The body has changed. My body has changed. In the history of humans, we even know 400 years ago, we were shorter. People have gotten taller, right? That's evolution. What happens at some point? That's an evolutionary thing. But what am I? Am I just this body? Am I just nothing more than a bunch of these piece parts of the body? I mean, I'll say that to Christians who get all upset. I'm not a monkey, right? Right? I didn't evolve from monkeys. God made me as a human. Look, are you, when you die, right? Your soul is going to go to heaven, right? This body, right, is just going to decay down here, right? I said, well, then why the hell do you care where it came from? Maybe it had to evolve from monkeys in order for you to have this body. Does it have anything to do with you? Right? They don't want to hear that kind of thing because they want to argue about stuff. But if I'm not the body, then the whole point, it happens and has nothing to do with me. I haven't evolved. That is, I as consciousness have not evolved. I, this person, this form, right, has evolved enormously. Enormously, right? And this is the whole nature of non-duality. The constantly changing kaleidoscope of life and the impermanent and the permanent center, unmoving emptiness are one. You can't separate them. And we can't think of such opposites as one, but that's the nature of the mind. It transcends mind. The Tao cannot be spoken, but you don't have to, because it is you. You are that. Your being is the unchanging consciousness. The experience of yourself is the ever-changing universe. And yes, it's evolving. So hopefully that answers your question, Juliana. It's a big one, isn't it? Where are we? I lose my cursor all the time. It sucks. Robbie, one little question. Oh, screen just went blank again. It'll be back in a second. There it is. When pain arises from whatever source, how should one proceed to lessen it or let it dissolve by itself? Also, what is the difference from body pain experience versus mental pain? When a pain arises in the body, now I'm not someone who says, just ignore it, let it dissolve by itself. If the pain is severe enough, you need to get it checked out. Okay, I cannot advocate, nah, it's all mental, just do it. For me, it is, right? And there's growing evidence of that. If you listen to some talks by Gabor Mate, who's researched this quite extensively, he's come to the conclusion that all illness, almost all illness, some structural thing, a broken leg or something like that, but almost all the vast majority of illnesses, their cause is childhood trauma. I mean, he's extreme about it. He's a medical doctor, big authority. I love him, right? He's got his compassionate inquiry, which is very similar to inner reconciliation, obviously, which really surprised me when I saw that. Anyway, so that said, right, all sorts of things can give rise to a physical pain in the body. Only one of which is there's actually something physically going on there that needs to be adjusted in some way. And you also have to look at it point of view of the entire environment you're in, the food you're eating, the toxicity of relationships. All of that is a contributing factor. Those who are really interested in getting at the root of these kinds of pains and things, take some time to sit with the sensation and just be as present as you can with it. And you'll notice it's painful. So the mind wants to find a solution. You'll notice that. The body wants to get away from it, obviously. That's also very natural, right? But you're going to take the higher ground as your own inner authority. And so you feel the pain as sensation without engaging in the mind's description, its diagnosis, its explanation, its solutions. Okay? Just take some time to be with it. Don't even name it pain. Completely take all name and form away from it. Take away all, because with every name comes some overhead as to interpretation, what it means, and that sort of thing. See how much you can take in as pure sensation. Now, if the first thing you'll notice is when it's pure sensation is, there won't be any fear of it. It's just a sensation. It won't have any inherent meaning, right? The mind's now out of the picture, projecting a meaning on it. If there is any meaning to it, it will be in the sensation itself, and it will reveal it. You know what? I need a rest. I need a walk, right? Don't eat any more cake. It will kind of announce itself, right? That's the inherent wisdom and intelligence that is in the sensations themselves, right? Or there may be nothing, right? And it will eventually simply dissolve because it's just one of those things that passes through. Stuff goes through, right? It is no big deal. if you engage with it as it is, not as we think it is. Right? Our minds, we have become so accustomed to always laying on top of every experience some kind of an interpretation, a solution, a diagnosis. I got to do this, I got to do that. And you can see how that just kind of elevates the levels of stress and anxiety. Put all of that aside and just be pure experience. This is meditation, by the way. It's simply being present with whatever's there without interfering, without any agenda. It is pure experience. This is also the nitty-gritty of what I call the yoga of allowing or unconditional love. It's a total acceptance of is right here as it is. And then just watch what happens. Is there a difference between body pain experience versus mental pain? Absolutely. Mental pain is always illusory. Physical pain does have some reality to it. It is a presence that you need to be present with. Mental pain is a construct. It is created by the mind, right? And it is simply because the mind associates different things together. So it thinks of this, it has a bad feeling. And it then keeps thinking about it, right? So yes, psychological pain is very, very different. And this is, of course, what the exercise I was just telling you about eliminates the mental pain from it so that you can be purely with the pain without even calling it pain. Pure, raw sensation, pure experience. Then it can reveal itself as it is. Beautiful. Thank you, Ravi. In Romania. Hello, Ava. Happy to have you here. There's the awakened Aya and FJ. Hello, beloved ones. I posted some pics of my leg today. Had a tick bite 1 week ago. Many of those in my life, and possibly have had chronic Lyme disease for the longest time, but without the diagnosis. I shared it on Facebook, and to 3 people I know, people freak out that I got to do this and that. Well, look it up. I'll look it up ASAP, but I really don't want to take and remain calm and present and not freak out like I want to remain calm, present, not freak out like people do for me. Yes, of course. You really, yeah. You really can't expect to put something like that on Facebook without people going, oh no, why'd you do that? I don't want to see that. People don't want to see stuff in their own lives, right? And they certainly don't want to see it in somebody else's life. I would be very slow to be self-diagnosing. I probably have chronic Lyme's disease, right? You know, the mind is very powerful. The moment you introduce that idea, you're going to begin interpreting experience from that point of view. And even to the point, and I'm going out on a limb here, of creating the various symptoms that somebody would diagnose as Lyme's disease. Simply don't go there. What's happened? There's a tick in my leg, period. That's all there is to it at this point, right? So I really watch the way your mind goes, because how your mind goes, the stories it creates, dictate the quality of your experience. They become the filter through which the world is perceived, and they will completely control your experience. If you want a different experience, you break out of the mental patterns that are creating the filter through which the world is seen. And the ultimate breaking out of those mental patterns is the realization of who you really are. Because at the root of them all is the sense that I am the body. And what's going on in the body is me. If the body's got some kind of illness, you don't. Consciousness does not get sick. It does not get weak. It does not get feeble. Right? It is absolutely consistent. You are not the body. Let the body do what it needs to do. Right? My body gets a cold, it's got a cold. What does that have to do with me? Right? You know, if my car's got a problem, it's not running on all cylinders, right? Eventually it'll be fixed and it'll run on all cylinders. What does that have to do with me? Yes, I'm not going to get places as fast, right? It's not going to be as fun of a ride. But what does it have to do with me? This is a vehicle. This isn't who you are. You're not the body. And so we don't want to engage so heavily in our, we have so much knowledge now, right? That used to be we're all basically, you know, amateur experts on psychology and emotionality and various techniques and spirituality. You know, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Drink deep, or taste not the Pyrenean springs. Most of what we know isn't true. And I guess I'll just kind of leave it at that. As for people freaking out about it, well, that's what they're going to do, right? They don't want to see it in themselves. They don't want to experience their own stuff. They're running away from themselves. Of course, they're going to run away from you as well. Crispin, GP, you recently posted the anecdote of Krishnamurti revealing his secret. I don't mind what happens. So I choose to create either suffering or bliss. Is this option the only free will one has? Yeah, you posted that, and I haven't gotten around to answering it yet, but this is a good place to answer. Is this? Yes. Yeah, on a very simple level, way of saying yes, but if you really look closely, it's not really a choice, right? If I really care what happens, if my sense of happiness and well-being and safety is tied to events, right? That my belief that ties that to the events, right? Is that a choice? No, you're convinced that this is true. This is the way it has to be. So on one level, it seems as though this is a choice I'm making. That wasn't too loud. But on another level, you can see that it isn't. It isn't actually a choice. You believe something, and that belief is going to have consequences. It's going to establish relationships between things, right? So now I really do care about what happens, and that's going to lead to other behaviors, right? Trying to change what happens, fix what happened, avoid what happens, all the stuff that we do in life, right? But like Krishnamurti, who arrived at a place of that sense of self as pure consciousness, that he didn't mind what happened. Why? Because what happens doesn't affect me. It's simply what's happening out here. That connection between my sense of well-being and the events going on around me has been severed. Now, is that a choice? No, it's simply, once again, acknowledging what's true. So I'm always pointing not to freedom like free will, but the freedom from our false beliefs. And freedom from the false belief doesn't lead to making better choices. It leads to what appear to be choices and decisions, which are inevitable because all of our choices and decisions arise out of our beliefs. So there's no free will in that sense. I cannot do something contrary to my beliefs. I cannot do something purposely destructive to myself. I can't do it. I cannot choose that. Right? All my choices will always be what I happen to believe is best for me or mine. Always. And I will never choose anything else. So there's no choice. It's simply about what I believe to be true, what I hold to be true, what I regard as the right thing. I will always act accordingly. Right? And so because he discovered himself as he really is, the consciousness that is absolutely unchanging and unaffected, like the sky is completely unaffected by the storm that passes through, then he could say, I don't mind what happens. I, consciousness, don't mind what appears to consciousness because it does not affect consciousness. Yeah, my body may react. There are all sorts of things going on in the world, but it does not affect me. That's his secret. Right? And it's now your secret too. And so it becomes a matter of really just inquiring deeply into, why does that matter? What do I think is going to happen? And you will find at the root of it my belief that somehow my well-being, my self, is dependent upon external circumstances. If I challenge that, if I really scrutinize that sense of self, I will find that that sense of self isn't real. That it is a mental construct. It's a sense of identity that is completely fabricated by the mind, and it's not who I really am. And that who I really am is the consciousness that is aware of it. And that consciousness has been unaffected by absolutely everything that's ever happened in my life and everything after that. And then you can say it just like him. I don't mind what happens. How's that, Crispin? Thank you for that question. Yasmin, hello to you. Good to see you. Oh, lost my cursor there. Come on back. Where are you? Where are you? Ah, there you are. Facebook user. Hello, anonymous Facebook user. What exactly is grace? Amazing grace. Grace is another word for enlightenment, for awakening, for realization. When you realize the truth, you realize the truth has always been the truth. You didn't become the truth. It's always been that way. You didn't earn being the perfect reality. You didn't earn being the Brahman self. You just are. That's grace. Grace is truth. It's the truth that's always been there. In our illusion of a separate self, desperate, struggling, fearful, right? When it's revealed that that's not who you are at all and never have been. You don't become, somebody. You don't become, it's not you earn the reward and now you become the divine being. You realize you always have been. That's grace. It's not earned. Right? So in that sense, the traditional Christian view of grace as the free gift is absolutely true. You didn't earn it. There's nothing you could do to become worthy of it. There's no acts you can perform, however moral or wonderful, that will make it okay for you to be, right? That you've earned your way. You can't earn it because it's already you. You cannot earn what you already are, right? You got $1 million in the bank. You don't earn that $1 million. You've already got it, right? So worthy, unworthy, valid, invalid, completely irrelevant to grace. It is simply the pure heart of the truth. Right? It is what it feels like when you recognize that you've always been that. And when you only thought you were something else. When you thought you were something else, grace would have appeared to be, I finally get to be whole. But the actual realization is you've always been whole. You just believed you weren't. And so the grace is just another word for truth, another word for love, another word for reality, another word for the self-realized. Thank you, Facebook user. Jay, happy to see you again, GP, my first and true mentor in life. I found through the last years that I wanted a true mentor, a safe space of wisdom to guide me. I didn't know then how and what it implied. Thank you. Ah, beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, we don't. We don't know what. But if we did, we'd do it, right? We don't know what or why or how. And then it happens. That's grace. Right? That's the awakening. And again, it happens all by itself. There's nothing you can't speed it up, you can't slow it down. So just, chill, enjoy the ride. Ursula, hello to you. Lydia, my beautiful friend, so good to see you. Sally Ann Saint, another beautiful friend. Hello. David and Elaine, a team of scientists have worked out a complicated formula for the basis of happiness, but basically equates to lower your expectations. How much simpler would the equation be if it was the realization that happiness was our true nature? Yes, everything is conditional and interactive for the scientist. Nothing is inherent, and so it will always be some kind of. It's got to be measurable. An inherent quality isn't measurable, right? Therefore, it's by definition outside the purview of scientific investigation. Now, scientific ideology is such that nothing can be outside of its purview. If it's outside of the purview, it's irrelevant or simply unreal, right? So an inherent quality cannot be measured as so. It cannot be measured. How do you measure happiness that has no boundaries? Happiness is just what you are. That the ananda of Satchidananda is actually the nature of being itself. But if all I'm looking at is, as science must, that which fluctuates, the question would be, how do I get it fluctuates more on the presence of happiness as the emotional state and less on the absence of it, which unfortunately is the way most people approach spirituality, right? The peak experience, right? My next journey, right? My next retreat, my next aha moment, my next peak experience. We're seeking to have as many highs as we possibly can, and that's the best one can hope for, right? That it's going to have an offset. Okay, I have misery, but okay, I have more highs than lows, and for many people, especially these days, there are more lows than highs. And so if I can get some equilibrium and maybe even get over 500 up here, that's because there's no notion that happiness as contentment, as ananda is the Sanskrit word, which is just a really rich, broad meaning. And I'm finally pronouncing it right. I heard somebody actually say it who would know how it was pronounced. It's not ananda, it's ananda. How about that? I'm trying to say it right now. I suppose it doesn't really matter, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. But it's a very broad and very rich meaning, but it's really about just inherent contentment. That you might think of it as the consciousness, right? Satchidananda, right? The Sat being, your existence, right? The nature of that existence is consciousness. But you might not think that as consciousness as being like the cognitive, that I'm aware of my own being, and that ananda is the heart of it, the feeling of it, the visceral experience of being. Right? That it isn't just I am. It's like, oh, I am. It's rich, right? It has content that isn't just in the head, but that's completely unknown. Right? Remember, to the scientific ideology, consciousness is an emergent property of matter. Matter is all there is, and consciousness is little more than an artifact, right? An interesting one, right? But but not even all that relevant, right? So how much simpler it would be if there was the possibility, just open to the possibility of consciousness as a self-existent essence or substance in and of itself. But that's completely outside of the ideology. And I say the ideology of science. It's not that science is illegitimate. Of course it isn't. But every human endeavor has an ideology behind it. Medicine has an ideology behind it. You know, the enormous amount of the overwhelming evidence that the main, at least the main cause, if not the sole cause of the vast majority of illnesses, is childhood trauma. Yet, in even the best medical schools in the world, there is not a single course of study on trauma. So ideologically, even though the evidence is overwhelming, published in legitimate journals and magazines, not Crystal or Yoga magazine, right? New England Journal of Medicine, the Lancet, the Harvard Medical Journal, it's completely ignored because the ideology just won't let it in, right? So pharmaceutical companies and the like, there's a whole lot of stuff. Anyway, love it. Thank you, Dave, and Elaine. Yasmin, if I am just consciousness dreaming and there's no separation, why do I start to feel lonely? You're dreaming that you're feeling lonely. Now, I don't want to sound flippant, right? But wouldn't that be a content of the dream? I don't want any of you to simply take my word for it, right? Oh, well, G says I'm just consciousness. Okay. I mean, please, right? I don't want people being just, spiritually ignorant, right? Right? Just believing something, explore it, right? If I'm just consciousness dreaming, then the entire content is a dream, which means I'm having a dream of myself as loneliness, as feeling lonely. Okay. Now, the first thing I would do is to try to drop the I, is I just go into the feeling of that has been labeled lonely, right? This is an internal exploration that is so very powerful to do. And that is to get closer and closer to the direct experience you're having. Remember, as a child, you're pure feeling, right? There's no mental, intellectual activity. There's no labeling. There's no words. It is pure feeling, right? And you're completely in tune with the feeling. As animals are, right? You're completely in tune with the feeling. There's no editing. There's no censoring. There's no conceptualizing, right? The reactions are all absolutely appropriate. Right? So it's perfectly natural. Right? So that's close to the true undifferentiated consciousness you are. Right? So we're going back the way we came. But over time, right, certain feelings were allowed, certain weren't, right? And so the feelings themselves now took on a character that isn't natural to them. Otherwise, they're just feelings. Right now, this feeling becomes a bad feeling. You think it's a label. This feeling is like, angry or lonely or afraid or embarrassed, right? And then on top of that are all sorts of ways to try to not feel that. Right? You could see how this entire conceptual superstructure gets built on the feeling because the feeling runs into reactions, right? So we're just going to keep going. We're just going to turn around and walk back where we came from, right? And you start with lonely. Now, you wouldn't say lonely if there wasn't a feeling there first, right? The word, it didn't come, I'm lonely, right? Or I feel lonely if there was no feeling. So feeling was there. Right? Okay, so let's go back to what has been labeled lonely and just feel it. You feel it. There's a sensation in the body. Right? Maybe it's emotional, maybe it's physical, it doesn't matter. Right? There's just a feeling there. Right? Now with that feeling, drop the word lonely. which is a label by the mind which came later, right? Right? Remember, as a child, you didn't have any words. It was pure feeling, right? So all the way back to pure childhood. Okay, just this feeling. Now I'm calling it lonely. And you'll notice that the moment you take the name off, all of the overhead that went there with that name is gone with it. And now you're in the realm of pure, raw sensation. But here's a big difference. Unlike the child that's in that state, you're in this state consciously. You now have the developed, awakened consciousness, which is what it is. It's not intellect, which is coming back to the experience of the child, but no longer as the child. You are now consciously experiencing life directly. This is awakening, right? This is awakening, merging with life. Now notice how different it is, that the feeling's the same, but the context is completely different. I was talking before about the difference in awakened or not, somebody who's enlightened and somebody who isn't, right? The sun still looks like it's going across the sky. That feeling will still be there, but completely free of any overhead. At that point, you may actually feel other stuff around it, which is the way, because of your particular upbringing, that feeling may be traumatic. There may be an energetic expectation that I'm always going to feel this way, because maybe it is something you felt as a child because your parents just were emotionally unavailable, or maybe even physically unavailable, or just not interested, or whatever. And suddenly that feeling may now have a history to it. The more you stay with it, the more it reveals itself. And because it's revealing itself now to consciousness, if you have practiced inner reconciliation enough that you're not there with an agenda, you're not there to fix it, you're there to be pure presence, which is unconditional love. You've created the environment in which the deepest kind of healing can take place. And you'll find that it will completely transform in front of you, right in front of you. It won't be painful anymore. It won't even be lonely anymore. You'll feel a very natural, very just completely natural humanness. It may be simply a humanness for a little contact, a little connection, touch, right? Which is perfectly natural. Right? And there'll be a complete acceptance of that. Also acceptance that in the moment you might not be able to fulfill it, but all the pain of that will be gone. Right? So hopefully that helps you begin to really approach it, right? And takes it out of the realm of purely, well, if I'm just dreaming, why am I feeling it? You can tell that you can get really lost in that. That becomes kind of this kind of spiritual la la land, really ineffective and inhuman. It disconnects with your humanity, and genuine non-duality is a merging of the two. They're not two; they are one. Human and divine are one. Hello, G, my teacher. Hello, Facebook user, my anonymous student. It's so interesting seeing that the body is capable of doing almost everything automatically and without interfering with the mind, even better, even though the mind thinks that nothing can work without it in the first place. Isn't it amazing? Yes, it is doing it all the time. We're just not aware. We think the minds do it. We think that we're a doer. Dismantling this idea of my personal doership is so liberating. And you just have to walk down the street. I remember noticing it really vividly. I was actually was living in around Las Vegas at the time, and I went up Mount Charleston, I believe, which is a pretty high mountain. I had a nice climb up, and on the way down, of course, it's different, right? When up, you're trudging and that sort of thing. It's a little bit more work on the bottom, but going down, obviously, it's not that much work. but also there's a tendency that you can go a little bit faster. And as I was going down, it became so obvious I was not controlling it, right? I wasn't fast enough for my feet to make the adjustments, right? That it would sense a rock and it would just adjust just slightly so it wouldn't slip. And I was just like, this is amazing. I was like, I was watching this machine walk down the hill. I wasn't doing anything. In fact, I would have fallen if it was me. I just noticed tiny little inputs, right? Just a stone here, the side of one rock might be a little slippery. It starts to slip a little bit. I just watched the body immediately respond. It was breathtaking how utterly beautiful and perfectly adapted it was. It was like, wow, thank you for getting me down the hill. So we only believe that we're out not living our purpose. We only believe that we're doing stuff. We only believe that all this depends on me. We only believe that, oh God, if I don't do it, it's not going to happen. Destiny is what happens. There's no need to stop it or try or think you can correct it or create it. You're along for the ride. You're here to be the witness of life and relish in its uniqueness, right? Relish in its simplicity and in its beauty, right? It doesn't have to be spectacle, right? The big purpose doesn't have to be, being a star or making a huge difference or anything like that. Your life, if you see it, is breathtaking, one of a kind. Just stunning. Thank you, Facebook user, whoever you might be, wherever you might be in the world. Merc. Take a drink while my screen comes back, because it just went blank again. Doesn't do it on my other computer. Maybe I start using the other computer for Satsang. Anyway, Merc says, hi GP, joined your Patreon, watched a couple of videos. It's blank again. Yes, second, folks, while it comes back. That really resonated. Oh man, it's really coming up and down now. What happens? Let's see. Let's do this. I am going to disconnect and reconnect. Let's see what happens. And let's see. Watched a couple of videos that really resonated. Are they all on YouTube? I guess wanting them to stay accessible when they rotate would be grasping the impermanent. Well, they're not all on YouTube, no. In the Patreon, for those of you who don't know, and gpwalsh.com/patron, if you'd like to contribute $15 a month to keep this stuff on the air. What I've been doing is I've been making excerpts of the satsangs, and I'm going to post some of them on YouTube, but you have to remember how much work that is. I think I may have found somebody in India who not very expensively will break things up. And somebody else who will actually go through and identify which sections have to be broken up, and somebody else who'll do the video editing. Because right now I do it all. And for me to make an excerpt of one of the satsangs, satsang lasts 2.5 hours. It'll take me 5 hours to actually break it up into sections. It's just more work than I can be doing all the time. And if I post them all on YouTube, they can get lost in the sauce, right? So I'm trying to organize them, curate them a little bit, and it really is the organization that's the added benefit you get from having the things in the Patreon program. But there will be things on the Patreon program. I am going to recycle it. At first, I was just going to put everything on there, right? So it literally be thousands of excerpts and videos. And I realized that would be just completely unmanageable for anybody to go through. So I decided, along with Lisa, my helper, is to the best thing to do is to take a chunk of them, like maybe 25 at a time, and then just refresh them. Right. Remember, I'm always talking about the same thing. Right. It doesn't matter what the video is. It doesn't matter what the question is. The answer is always coming from the same place, and it's always basically the same answer. Right. And so I, there's just, I have so much material out there, and I love making it. I mean, one of my hopes for the patron program is to get 100 patrons, right, at $15 each. That actually covers all of my expenses, to keep all the lights on and stuff here. Frees up other money, my own personal money that's now doing it, for me to do a few things that I haven't been able to do for myself, and also allows it to grow. So I can give, I can hire some people. So there's simply not as much work to be done. I do the website even. I mean, once I edit the videos, I then go to the website. I put that whole thing together. I'd love to be able to have a webmaster, so I just don't have to do that anymore. So anyway, would that be grasping the impermanent? Yes, it would. Yes, it would. But anyway, that's why I'm doing it, and that's why I hope, if you can, you'll be chipping in $15 a month to keep it going. You just take one class and you'll make it back, because there's a 10% discount on any one of the courses you take from me. So so that's that. Anyway, gpwalsh.com/patron, Patron. And I abandoned Patreon because censorship. They're doing censorship now. They've got investment money. And so, investors, they want return, right? They're not in it for the love of it. They're in it for the money. So I decided it was time to drop Patreon. They were just inconsistent with my whole approach to living and teaching. So, Kamal Lodi, hello, sir. Hello to you. Hello, Marty Hale in Vancouver. Henrik in south of Germany. Hello, Henrik. I love South Germany. Oh, it's so amazing. Russell, IGP, and everyone from freezing South Africa. All right, you guys are going into winter, right? You're late fall now. Merck, notice that apparently even seemingly voluntary actions are just happening. I just become aware of the intention arising before the action happens. So it feels like my doing. But even the feeling of I is just occurring. So the experience of it just depends on what I'm identifying as. Yep. Conscious is not doing anything. It is the awareness in which it all happens, without which nothing can happen. Out of which it is arising, of which it is made, right? So you become aware of the action, you become aware of a sense of intention, you become aware of an I thought that says, I intend to do that. All of those are the modulations of consciousness, all of which are being witnessed by that which is neither the doing nor the doer, nor the I taking credit or the blame. Right? Even the feeling of I is just occurring. So the experience of it, the interpretation of the experience, whether you're seeing things as they are or seeing them illusory, as you're experiencing nirvana or samsara, depends on who's seeing it, which is to say, who you are identified with. Are you recognizing yourself as the pure consciousness that is aware of it? Or is the thought that I've identified with the self, the false self, not been recognized that itself is simply another There is no I to not identify, to identify or not identify. That too is another modulation, isn't it? Scrutinize it even deeper, my friend. Sweet. Patricia. Hi from Los Angeles. Happy to be here. So glad to you're here, Patricia. I have to tell everybody I've known Patricia for several years, and just recently I learned that she's like an amazing songwriter. And are you the singer on those two? You sing great too. Faith, thanks for the answer, my sheik. It was such a relief. Pray for me, Baba. Yes, Islam is a bunch of rules. You have to follow them. You either deserve heaven or hell forever. Welcome to Abraham. And it's really funny, you know, that the Muslims, Jews, Christians duking it all out, and they all have the same father. They all have the same origin. They all worship the same God, right? The same ridiculous, cruel, stupid God, Yahweh, an ancient tribal God from the Bronze Age, right? Who managed to become anyway, I'll get some hate mail about that. But even Christ told the Jews, you worship your father, the devil. We worship Abraham. So you worship your father, the devil. Whoa. You know, there was a sect, the Marcionites, who actually their idea is that Yahweh, the Jewish God, the one that has been inherited, not the God of the Jews, the father of the God of in Christians, as opposed to the son, who in his wrath required some blood sacrifice. So man was unworthy of it. So he had to sacrifice, his son in its stead, because of course, God forbid he say, all right, never mind. Forget the sacrifice. I don't need it. No, somebody, I need blood. Ridiculous. Anyway, to the Marcionites, what it really is that God was a lesser God. He was they had a name for him, and he was like the rebellious God. He was this angry God. He was pissed off at the ultimate, the real God. So he was a minor God, right? That's why I say jealous God. No other gods before me, right? Just kind of grabby. And that Christ actually came from the other God to free us all from the wrath of Yahweh. An actual group, obviously their view did not become the dominant one in modern religion, but the Marcionites, you can look it up. There was actually a whole group about that. If you guys want to check out, there's a couple of interesting things. One, Let's Talk Religion is a nice one. It's really fun on YouTube, that channel. There's one called Religion for Breakfast, which is more studious, more heady. But really, really, really good. Bert Ehrman, B-E-R-T, Ehrman, E-R-H-M-A-N. He does a bunch of lectures on it. He actually was a Christian who, once he got educated, realized it was not, but he teaches Bible history and archaeology and that sort of thing. So those of you who would be interested in that kind of stuff, to kind of get to the root of it, see why scriptures are the way they are, where they came from, how they were written, what are stories, what are mythology. Well, it's all mythology. There's almost no history in any of it, but that's beside the point. So anyway, Daniel Burr. Hello, Daniel. Hey, GP, greetings from nowhere and everywhere. Just curious. Tony Parsons talks about there is no knowing, only unknowing. Just what is apparently happening. Unknowing just what is apparently happening. In that sense, I think in the way he means it, he's not referring to knowing the way I am, the knowingness, just the fact that you are aware, the pure awareness, which is undeniable. When you're talking about knowledge of something, I know that light, that's intellectual, right? Right? I know this screen here and it's blanking out on me, right? I know this cup. Right? That knowing, there's the actual pure experience of it, which I would call pure knowing or chit, right? Or knowingness, you might say, right? That is the awareness and existence, right? I can't exist without being aware, and I can't be aware without existing. Right? The two are one. So that's the knowingness when I refer to it. But when I'm talking about knowingness, what I'm actually talking about is the discursive knowledge, a linguistic knowledge. It has now become an object in my mind, something that I know. And in that case, there's only unknowing, right? Realizing that I could call this anything, it could be anything, but that doesn't tell me anything about it. There really is nothing to it, right? There was a wonderful story. As I was holding this, it reminded me of it, and I'll hold it for a second while I tell the story. And I'm not sure where I heard this from, but it was at a conference of an interreligious conference of some sort, right? And there are all sorts of different faiths there and different philosophies. And there was a group of people, and conversation got started about the nature of reality, what's real, what isn't real, what's truth, what isn't. And the discussion revolved around, there was a glass of water sitting on the table. It said, is this real or not? Is it real or unreal? Right? And went back and forth. It's like, well, it's not real. It's just an impression. It's just got these, there's this stuff here. There's pure emptiness, all these kinds of discussions, right? And sitting there was a Zen master. And they asked the Zen master, they said, well, you're very quiet about this. What do you think, all right, about this cup? Is it real or is it not real? His response was, he picked up the cup, a drink, set it down. No knowing in that pure being. It's isness, nothing to be known, right? And in fact, isn't that the only actual experience of it? Right? That's what cup is. It's a word we've given to the actual experience. The experience is the true knowingness. Everything else has to be unknown, unlearned, right? So I believe that's probably, I don't know him personally, right? I believe that's probably what he's getting at, because you can't say not knowing as in unconscious, right? So consciousness, knowingness, I use those terms interchangeably because consciousness can tend to be a bit clinical. Consciousness, it becomes an object, but knowingness, my knowing of something, right? There's a dimension to knowing that is beyond simply knowing the object as an object with thoughts about it in context and that sort of thing. There's the experience, the experiencing of it, and the union, the unity, the singularity of the experiencing and what is being experienced. They merge and become one. So thank you for that question, Daniel. Faith. Oh, I already saw that one, didn't I? Yes, Islam, bunch of rules. Hi, Patricia. Hi, G and all. Most grateful to be with you today. Thank you, G, for your great service for us today. I need an anchor. Fell for some great height syndrome. Such relief to know you are here and I can tune in. That's why I keep showing up. I want to keep showing up as long as I can. Hey, Dale, good to see you. Melissa, hello, Melissa. Hello to you. Facebook user, thank you for such a clear description regarding the interaction between the body, feeling, and the mind's comments and the freeing process. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Yeah, it is very clear. Clear to me. Seems so self-evident to me. As I began to discover this stuff and see it, goes, how did I miss this? How did I possibly even miss this? Of course, something isn't obvious until it's obvious, right? Fiona Jane, hello all. Very grateful to be here. Thank you so much, GP, for Satsang. I now love Sundays and the freedom of exploring all these questions. Beautiful. Oh, that does my heart so much good. People who want to explore these questions. Anja, thanks. Dear G, thank you for your loving wisdom. Satsang is the best. Anja from Germany. Dave Maloney. Hello, sir. Recently, I went deep into body work. I sat with curiosity for a little longer than I felt comfortable, and it revealed a lot. I was shocked, even. My body started recoiling at one point. I'm wondering if this is a sign I should continue to explore or back off a little. I never felt any real sense of danger. It was definitely uncomfortable, but it's showing me why I react to certain things. The feeling seems to be already primed in the body, ready to be triggered. Thanks as always, G. Yes, that's right. Right. The potential, right, is always there. And the closer you move in, the closer you get to the raw program, the raw trigger itself. You know, in these big programs, right, the word processing programs and the like, 95% of the people who use it only use 5% of it. And the power users use a little bit more, right? Which means there's 95% of what a program can do. That is, all the pre-programmed responses that have been set up in that program, right, have never been seen, or because they've never been activated. The button never got pushed. Doesn't mean they're not there, but the button simply didn't get pushed, right? Which is why we get really surprised when you're so calm and something, and then something happens in the environment, and we freak out, and we get angry, and what happened? Well, that button got pushed. It didn't get pushed before. And of course, this is very true. We go on a retreat or something, which is a perfect environment, right, of no button pushing, right? And so that you can have that experience of equanimity, what it's like to step out, which is what retreats are for, and it's good for that, right? But if they're done right, they then prepare you to go back into the real world where those buttons are going to be pushed again, right? To know what to do when that happens. So the answer is no, don't back off, right? Now, if there's an intention in you to fix something, meaning you've got an agenda, maybe a hidden agenda, as you're doing the inner work, then back off and let go of your agenda and then go forward. As long as your agenda is simply to be present, to create the inner environment of safety and to be totally safe for your energy system, you can just keep pressing on and on and on, and it won't have a problem with that because you're not a threat. And it knows the difference between somebody who's a threat and somebody who's not. And what happens is there's a realm you can get into where you can begin to dissolve triggers without having to push all the buttons, without having to create the reaction, not needing intentional triggering or anything. Right? You're getting into a very deep realm. Just keep going. Right? And remember, though, that you who are moving into this territory are pure, unconditional love. You are love itself. You are the pure consciousness. And it is that light you are bringing to this area that is, ready to spring out, ready to defend itself, because it had to in the past, right? And it is just anticipating, because for the longest time doing self-help, you were doing that to yourself, trying to fix it. So you were a problem it had to defend itself against. So it's going, okay, can I trust this guy? Love, 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 love. Right? With love, you can go anywhere. And it will turn the lights on. And it will diffuse that 95% of the program that have never been triggered. So you don't have to. We don't have to press every button. There's millions of them. Oh, thank God we don't have to. Right? Oh boy. Yeah, a lot of them. Oh, my screen started blanking out. What a beautiful translation. Thank you for this. It says, Kira, not 100% sure what you're referring to. It was over an hour ago. I don't remember what I was talking about then. Anyway. Can you speak about not finding your clan and being alone in the world? Carrie. Well, when you're talking about the clan, what you're really talking about are like-minded hearts with which you feel totally at home, totally yourself. Right? Now, if you'd felt that as a child, your home, your family of origin would have been your clan. Most of us don't. Nobody does completely. Right? That's just kind of the nature of the way it works. But then eventually you can find those who totally embrace you for who you are, even the things that are so different than them. They may not even agree, but it doesn't matter, right? Because there's something much deeper at work. So the way to find that clan is to continue to be with yourself as someone who honors who they are. Right? Don't make the aloneness be a problem. It's not. It is simply everybody has to have the periods of aloneness. Those are the period meditation, right? Is aloneness. You fall asleep at night, right? You could be laying next to the love of your life, but they won't be there. You will be alone, right? So it's just part of the experience, and ultimately, the discovery of the oneness is the infinite aloneness that is simultaneously the infinite family. Difficult thing to explain in words, but you can probably feel the sense of it. I want to be alone with everyone. I want to feel that sense of total at-homeness and at the same time total connection. That's what the clan represents. And well, you've got many people right here, even though we're not in the same room. Maybe someday we will be. But these are all people who are part of your clan. These are people who will love you as you are, accept you as you are, allow you to be as you are, allow you to continue to explore who you are, and to allow that who you are to shift and change over time and still accept it, right? So you be that first for yourself, let yourself be that for others so that they can feel your equanimity and your love of them. And that will be the energy that will eventually create the kind of actual manifest clan I think you're talking about, that just the sense of belonging. Right? Belong here. Aloneness is not loneliness. Solitude is sweet. And paradoxically, there's nothing more sweet than to be able to sit with someone and tell them how wonderful aloneness is. Julia says, blessings. Chu. Thank you very much. Josie, hello again, Josie. GP, do you have a link with many EFT videos in the same place? Like all your EFT videos on YouTube in the same playlist, at least. I can't find your 10-day EFT on the website anymore. It's because I took it off the website. It was, well, it's on the website. I did give it away free, but it's now part of the, it's one of the things I've put into the patron program, right? Like I said, I can't give everything away. If I give everything, well, I have been, right? If somebody wants to make a huge donation to me, I'll give everything away. I have no interest. I just need to make enough to survive. Seeing the feed, everything is flowing smoothly. Good. Tina Elaine Lohman Peterson. Oh, I love that name. Hesh to you. Michael Bisson. Hi, how's your health? Your voice seems okay, but you look older than me. Well, if old age equals bad health, then I'm not healthy. My health is perfect. I'm absolutely fine. Uh, I'm absolutely fine. And I'm 69 years old. So I've been around a bit. I'm not 70 yet, though. Jay, I sincerely wish G. Eckhart, Rupert, and teacher alike wrote new scripture for the next generation. And this is a little dark, but the whole world gets destroyed by a natural cause, and the old scriptures disappear without a trace, but the new ones survive. Some people like to complicate this simple realization with confusing spiritual terms and traditions. Yeah, they do. But I think a sign of the times, I think you've heard me speak about it, when I had that experience on the bridge that changed everything. I didn't know this existed, right? At that time, Nisargadatta was still alive. Had I known, I could have gone and seen him. He wouldn't die for another 10, 12 years, right? I had no idea, right? I just didn't have the exposure to this. Is pre-internet, right? There was no internet. That would be another 20, 25 years, 20 years before it became a common, 25 before we had the World Wide Web, right? Like we have now. And I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what a computer was. Right? So when I finally, in the 90s, when I finally was encountered with this kind of writing, the writing of I Am That, and then Ramana and other kinds of stuff, and then the Buddhist sutras and all these things that were right direct, right? And if it was just like a breath of fresh air, right? Because I had struggled through all the, kind of sorting out, historical nonsense and mythological profundity. Then gave all that up and was just kind of looking into the psychology of it and archetypes, mythology, and that sort of thing, but really around men's work and that sort of thing. So when I finally ran across it, it was like, oh my God, where have you been all my life? You just come out and say it, simple to the point, not scriptures at all, not scriptural at all, more like Gitas, right? Like Ribu Gita and the Abhidhamma Gita and things like that were just direct statements of it. And now that is available all over the place. Right? This to me gives great hope. It simply wasn't time. Humans weren't ready for it. They wouldn't know what to do with it. I mean, in 1971, when this whole thing started happening to me, I wouldn't have known it would have confused the hell out of me. I wouldn't have known what to make of it. As it was when I finally read the Lankavatara Sutra, it was like read number 6 before I started to grasp anything in it. Right? When I first read I Am That, it took me 2 years to read through it, because I would just like a sentence or two or maybe a paragraph, and I would just like, and I just have to sit with it for a while. And it was just transformative. It's so different. But now it's ubiquitous, right? It's everywhere. It's permeated. The downside is there's a lot of misunderstanding. There's a lot of really immature teaching and teachers about it. But the real stuff is there. Ramana's actual words, right, are here for us to read. Muji's videos. I mean, the most accurately recorded sage of all time is Muji, right? Recordings, high quality recordings, thousands of them. Now they're going to last for perpetuity, right? So they're going to make it, when the earth is destroyed. They'll stoop. They'll find a way. They will be the stuff of the future. So, yeah. We don't need to write scripture. We don't need scriptures anymore. We don't need the truth to be buried in metaphor anymore, which is what the scriptures all were. The story of gods and goddesses and, history and great wars and kings and all that stuff. We don't need it anymore. Thank God. Just as you're saying right now. Good, Jonas. I just read that. But I don't think there's a need to comment. People I shared it, however. Yes. Oh, that's right. People are panicked about sort of thing. Until you know who you are, life is frightening. Surely. Feels like I've been on the right track then. Yes, you have been. My dear boy, indeed you have been. David and Elaine, thank you, GP. With love, gratitude. Thanks to you too. I really need to find you in person. I'm 22, very, very lost. I'm available. I can meet with you privately. I normally charge, but if you have no money, I'll work something out. As I say, I keep promoting all of my courses and my Patreon account because this is what happens. I keep giving stuff away. I can't let somebody suffer, right? So anyway, 99 cents is 22. Wow. Yeah. Make a Pathway, Louise, and from the UK. Hello to you. Is that what, yes, like that, yeah. Here's Alessandra. Hello, and there's Mikey. Hello, Mikey. Lost everybody again. Yes. John Rendell. Hi. Your life is going to change tomorrow. There's something around you. Go away. Have a nice day. Okay, thank you. Change for the better? Or should I be on guard? I relish change. I love change. I'd love to see a change happen. Your life is going to change tomorrow. Okay. I'll watch for it. I'll let you know. Thank you for sharing your higher states of consciousness. You're welcome, Julia. It's not really a higher state of consciousness. It's an awareness of consciousness which is not in any state. Content, our awareness of it, our awakening seems to go through various states, but then we arrive at the pure reality, which is not a state. It isn't fluctuating. Not to diffuse or diminish what you said. I'm very grateful. Just I like to use it as another teaching point, that all states are being watched by something, right? All states. Whenever I see a state or anything, coming, they all come and go. There's something that isn't coming and going that's monitoring and registering every shift in what appears to be consciousness, which is actually content of consciousness. So the true pure consciousness is beyond all states. It's beyond all dimensions. It is not in time or space. It is absolutely motionless. Thank you, Julia. Beautiful. Faith, thanks for being here with us. Oh, you're welcome. You guys all keep showing up, so will I. Thank you for your love, Sifu. You're welcome. What are your thoughts on out-of-body experience? Like mine, sanartefoundation.org. I did a radio show called Into Body Experiences. Yeah, it was a subject of the radio show I think I did 2 weeks ago. I got questions about that. Like all experience, if done correctly, can be quite transformative. They can be revealing. They can help us overcome fear. Fear of death. They can make us grasp that immortality is not a theoretical. It's a fact. People have near-death experiences. It's the same kind of thing. People on journeys and ayahuasca or mushrooms or something have that kind of an experience and out of body. So I don't diminish that as experience. As a teacher of consciousness and non-duality, I bring attention to something more subtle than the experience, right? Because every experience has, as an experiencer, every experience is happening against a point of cognition that is recognizing the experience and noticing that this experience is different than another experience. Every experience, however deep and potent and transformative it is, comes and goes. The witness of experiencing, that which is registering all experience, doesn't. So the experience of the out-of-body experience is being experienced by that which was never in a body in the first place. The experience of being in the body is also an experience being had by the formless, bodiless consciousness. And again, I'm not diminishing those experiences, right? They happen to have very profound effect on people, very powerfully, positively transformative. Can help see through a lot of stuff and reorient to life. I'm simply wanting to take you a step deeper, because there's a sense of consciousness there that's just used to the whole idea of being the body, so that when that falls away for a moment and there's this experience, it's like this feeling of being out of the body. You were never in the body in the first place. That too is just an experience that was being had by the bodiless consciousness, which is beyond all experience, right? And yet is the source of all experience. So that's what I have to say about that. Thank you, Julia. Beautiful, beautiful. I love that. Sanartefoundation.org. I may look that up afterwards. David Muller, so helpful. I'll keep going without an agenda and with the intention of loving myself unconditionally. Yes, that's what you do. You don't have to worry. You can dig as deep as you want, as long as the intention is unconditional love, the desire to bring healing and to end suffering, right? Which was what motivated the Buddha and to the depths that he went until he completely unraveled the whole picture. Yes. Debbie Patterson, my first time hearing you. Hello, Debbie. Good to have you. Thank you for being in my world. Thank you for being in mine. Wonderful. Yes, love it. You can tell it's getting late. The audience, the size of the audience is dropping. I'm just keeping going here. I don't know why. Sometimes I go, oh, it's too late. I'm just keeping going. But please, no more questions. Let me just get through what's here. No more. Hold the questions till next time. 100th monkey, affect good knowledge is energy. Yes. And you are the witness of the 100th monkey. It is funny. First I heard Krishnamurti. I thought he is a philosopher. The other funny thing, I found you by listening to you on your old video about law of attraction, and after 1 year, here I am. Yeah, when I used to talk about that, when it was still very popular, a big thing, right? I tried to kind of like, there's a better way. There's more here, because that was really quite an opening for many, many people. It took people out of the idea that everything was my fault or I'm stuck being a victim, to opening the possibility that I could actually have some influence over my life. I could improve my life simply by the way I was thinking and feeling. Unfortunately, it also came with a lot of pejoratives, right? Now it's all my fault that my life isn't working. My thinking is horrible, and other people too, right? Well, it's all your thinking, right? And it's like, well, you made your bed, you sleep in it. I'm going to be wealthy. You're in poverty. It's your fault. It actually stimulated an enormous amount of selfishness and pettiness and a sense of arrogance and superiority in people. It did as much harm as it did good. And I did my best to kind of extract the good and try to help people avoid the harm. I think it did somewhat, because like you're here, so I guess it did. Cool. Chen, I can't pronounce that names. Gratitude from Vietnam. So good to have you. Great for another great satsang. Thank you. So happy, so still right now. Thank you. So brilliant. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, says G. Your blessing. So many Vedic scholars miss out on. It's interesting how through the direct knowledge of the self you can speak with authority even on the scriptures, because you're coming from the same place they did. Whereas a pundit tries to get to it via the scripture, the sage elucidates the scripture from the same place the scripture came from, as does the mystic or the prophet or that and the like. I know the source of them. Knowing the source of them, it's easy to understand them, right? So, I don't know the cultural of it, the various forms and the like. I wasn't raised with Krishna and Rama and Vishnu and Shiva. I learned about that later, right? But could separate between which was the cultural appearance and that which was the actual source and substance. Debbie said, I get what you're saying. It clicked with me with the words. Good. Yes. Beyond the appearance is you. It's my job here, right, is to point you back to you. Right? Turn around, go back the way you came. That's the way I'm going to put it. Go back the way you came. Right? They say you go to the billboard at the mall or something, and you go to the sign that says, you are here. You are here. Right? And aren't you? I mean, we say that, well, where are you? Everybody does this, but you're not here. This here, the here that is you can't really pinpoint it in space and time, can you? You can't say here, because wherever you are is here. That by definition is here, right? Right? If I stand up and walk over what is now there, it will become here. I'm here. The here-ness, the now-ness. It's just the center is myself. And that center has no circumference. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for holding your questions so I could actually bring this to a close. Excuse me. Thank you for your loving support. Thank you for, most importantly, thank you for being willing to do this kind of an inquiry. Till next week, you guys. Love you all. Namaste.